Hi everyone, my name is Yusuf and I'm a tutor at the DAE. I tutor a lot of Gen Chem and OChem classes. Um, Now today we're going to be going over writing ionic formulas. So here we have the periodic table and I'm going to be writing stuff on it to help you guys visualize and have stuff explained. Now, when we want to talk about ionic formulas, we need to understand that they're for ionic compounds. Now, what is an ionic compound? An ionic compound is a compound that is made of a metal and a non-metal on the periodic table. Now, how do we know what's a metal and what's a non-metal? Generally, the first column is all metals, second column is also all metals. Now here, those are called transition metals. They are pretty much all metals, but they don't have like properties that like could make them in a certain group, and that's why they're not put into a column. And that's why we consider this one to be the third column, really. Like we don't consider those to be like a group. They're just like they're hard to categorize. Now this one here is the third column. Now the third column is also typically made of metals, and now metals tend to form positive ions. So metals on the first column have a positive one charge. Metals on the second column have a positive two charge, and metals on the third column have a positive 3 charge. Now, this column here, the eighth column, is very stable. They do not, those elements here barely undergo reactions because they have a full octet, full 8 electrons balancing them, so they do not undergo reactions at all. Now, column 4, some elements in it, and column 5, some elements in it, as well as column 6 and 7, mostly those elements that I circled, they are nonmetals that take part in ionic interactions, ionic and forming ionic compounds. So in column 4, now nonmetals they make a negative ion. So the negative ion combines with the positive ion, metal plus nonmetal, and then that makes our ionic compound with the ionic formula. Now, in column 4, we're going to have a negative 4 charge. Column 5, the charge decreases, so negative 3. Column 6, it's going to be negative 2. And column 7 is going to be negative 1. And column 8 has 0, which is why they don't form ionic compounds at all. Now when we want to write ionic formulas, what we were trying to do the most is just balance the negative and the positive to make a neutral compound, if that makes sense. Let's go over some examples. Let's say we want to write the ionic formula for sodium chloride, or NaCl. Sodium is Na, chloride is Cl. So we have to find those on the periodic table. That is the first step. Na is over here. Cl is over here. Now, as you can see, Na has a positive 1 charge. So let's write Na, positive 1. Cl has a negative 1 charge. So we have Cl minus 1. Now, those two, because they have the same charge, we do not need any subscripts to write on them. We can just write NaCl because they balance each other perfectly. Na has a positive 1 charge, Cl has a negative 1 charge, plus 1 minus 1 is 0. They balance each other. Now, what if we have an example where they do not balance? Like, for example, let's say we have aluminum nitride. Or no, aluminum nitride does balance. Let's say we have lithium oxide. So let's find those on the periodic table. Lithium is here. Oxide is from oxygen, so here. Now lithium has a positive 1 charge. Oxygen has a negative 2 charge. So now how do we balance them out? How do we know if we need to have a subscript for lithium or a subscript for oxygen? Now, an easy method to use is the cross method. So the 2 goes here, the 1 goes here, You do not care about the charge, and you just put that number, the magnitude of the number, as a subscript. So we're going to have Li2, that's going to be the subscript, O1. Now, 1 does not need to be indicated, so that's just Li2O. And that does make sense because if you think about it, two lithiums, and lithium has a charge of +1, and you have two of it, so that's +2, and one oxygen with a charge of -2 has a charge of -2, so +2, -2 is 0, so they balance out. And that is how we form ionic compounds, and that is how we write ionic formulas. Um, Thank you for watching. I hope you understood all of that pretty well.